last few episodes dealing with email were throwbacks to an earlier time when we were constructing HTML pages out of single-line strings. I don't know about you, but I was very happy to leave those days behind. It's time also to leave them behind when it comes to sending our emails. In this episode, we're going to look at how to generate richer email content with less confusion by using email templates. If there's one thing I like about the Node ecosystem, it's that the package names are descriptive. We want to be able to use templates when we send emails, and there's a package for it named Email Templates. No guesswork, not being facetious. The first thing we do is install it. npm install -- save email templates. Email Templates supports a variety of template engines, and you can read the full list at the GitHub repo. For our purposes, it supports Jade. If you use one of the other engines, you'll need to also separately install the package for that template engine. But it doesn't just stop at HTML. It can also process various CSS preprocessors, such as Less, meaning that we can easily style our emails as well. This is good news. Now that we have it installed, let's look at how we'd actually use it. We're going to start sending these emails in the context of user registrations. A brief word about app layout. Back in episode 8, when we went through how to structure a Node app, we organized our app under a folder called App. Our so-called controllers all went in a directory called Controllers. I don't like this structure anymore, and in a future episode we're going to walk through what I consider to be a better layout. But rather than add to the cruft here, we'll start moving in the right direction by organizing our files according to their domain concern. Users registering is its own concern, so we're going to put the files related to user registration inside of a folder called User Registrations under App. So, make dir app user registrations. Now we'll need a place to put our mailer templates, so let's make another directory. Make dir app user registrations templates. This folder will hold both HTML page templates and email templates. So we need a function that'll take a user and send a new user email. This won't be a full user confirmation sequence, but it will be part of the building blocks of that sequence. Let's make a directory at app user registrations actions. Then create a file at app user registrations actions send user registration email.js. We'll lay down a skeleton for the function. So module.exports wrap, function wrap config, function send user registration email, and it takes a user. And then we have to lay down a little dummy error handler here. And finally, from our wrapper function, we just return that send user registration email function. Nothing special here, except that again, we have a config object coming in from which we'll take all of our configuration rather than reaching out of band to get it. Our callback will simply take an error parameter. Next, we're going to actually need the email templates modules. So let's add that. var email templates equals require email templates. Now we need to call the function that will load our email templates. So we just use the module that we required, pass it the path to where the templates we're going to use are located, and then give it a callback that takes an error and this object that we're going to name templates. Of course, if we get an error, we need to do something with the error. Bear with me on the name of that function right now. This function sets up the use of our templates, informing email templates where to look for them. Just like how we could pass context to our HTML page templates, we can do the same thing for our email templates. And just like how we did it for our HTML pages, we create a JavaScript object whose properties match the variables we're going to fill out in the emails. And user is obviously our user, and root is so that when we put links into the emails, they go to the right place. Relative links work great in HTML pages, but not so well in emails that don't have the necessary context to know where the links go. The next step is to render our templates. Now we do this using the templates argument we get in our loaded templates callback. It's a function that takes the name of the template we want to render, the context for our rendering, and a callback that will receive an error object, the rendered HTML and the rendered plaintext. And of course, we need to check to see if there's an error, and if so, we do something with the error. The actual mailer that we're going to use comes in via our config argument, so we don't have to worry about how to load that here. We simply call it, passing in our mailer args, which should look similar to what we saw in previous episodes. And this time, we'll use the supplied callback since we're going to be running this in our app and we want to know if there's a failure. Now we need to actually have those template files in place to use this. Email templates expects a directory containing 3 files, namely html.x, text.y, and style.z, where X, Y, and Z are the template engine extensions used for the HTML version, the plain text version, and the CSS preprocessor. In our case, that should be Jade, Jade, and Less, respectively. With regard to Less, we'll need to install that module. We're using Less middleware for our pages, but Node/ doesn't use Less by itself. So npm install -- save Less. Now let's create the directory for our templates. So make dir app user registrations templates, user registration email, and notice that that name matches the template name that we passed to the function. And then we can put in some dummy text for our 3 files. So under that directory, we're making html.jade, text.jade, and style.less. And just here's some simple code for them. These are some placeholder files until we get our actual user confirmation system in place. And we're doing this simple style file just to demonstrate that our styles do indeed get injected into the email. Now we need to hook this up to the user registration flow. We're going to bump into some ugliness of having our app only partially refactored into the new layout that I won't shut up about. Also, we're going to see a limitation of processing the email in a Mongoose middleware. Let's go to the user model first. In app models user.js, we're going to add a Mongoose middleware that will actually send our email. So let's add the following function: schema.post save, and then it takes a function which will receive just the user we're dealing with. So we're going to check user.wasNew, and if the user was new as opposed to making an edit on an existing user, we're going to send the user registration email. Now this sets up a function that will be called after the model instance is saved. A Mongoose post middleware takes a function with a single parameter, which is the saved record. This only works though if we add one line to our pre-save middleware, so just self.wasNew equals self.isNew. The isNew property on a Mongoose model tells us if a given instance has not yet been saved to the database. We need to cache that value into some other property before saving because, obviously, after the save, the model will have already been saved, and isNew will always be false in that case. Next, we need to define that send user registration email function. Near the very top of the model file, we add the following code. In this little blurb of code, we set up the config object that we pass to our send user registration email function. This will be much cleaner in our new architecture, but for now we have to shim it like this. Of course, not all of those properties are on our app object, so let's get those added in. Notice the use of the environment variables there, so that we could change who the sender is depending on the environment. We can also have our app point to the correct URL for any links we put in the emails. And then a little further down, we put our mailer in place. Notice that it's a function call on the result of our require call there. And that's it. With that stuff in place, we can start our server and then sign up a new user. Having done so, we can now see Letter Opener in action. Notice how it gives us all the versions of our emails. And just like that, we're sending emails in response to an application event. Now I'm feeling the pain of our old app layout here. I'm asking you to bear with me for the time being. There's a little more groundwork to lay down before we get to that big change. And just a reminder that if you're ready to send your actual emails, you'll need to use a different transport than the pickup transport we're using. Or you could have a program that looks for those files and sends them. Your choice. We'll end up choosing the former, but before we get into that, there's one little security stop we need to make. So stay tuned for next time, and until then, happy coding.